I had always thought the universe was a cold, indifferent place. That was before I met her. The alien woman with eyes like liquid starlight, skin shimmering with faint bioluminescence, and a presence that made the crowded corridors of the interstellar station feel like an empty cathedral. I wasn't supposed to notice her. No one was supposed to notice her. She was one of the elite envoys of the Lyri Collective, the intergalactic species whose influence spanned 1,000 star systems. I was a low-level xenobiologist, more accustomed to analyzing alien tissue samples than interacting with the creatures themselves. The first time I saw her, I was at the docking bay of Station Epsilon 9, watching the usual bustle of ships arriving and departing. Her ship, a sleek, iridescent vessel that seemed to shimmer in and out of reality, landed with an almost imperceptible hum. When she emerged, the station seemed to shift. Conversations quieted. Footsteps slowed. Even the hum of the machinery felt softer. She didn't walk, she glided. Her presence demanded attention without asking for it. I tried to look away, to focus on my datapad, but I couldn't. My eyes followed her as she passed, and for some inexplicable reason, I whispered to myself, "She's perfect." That was the moment everything changed. I didn't realize she had heard me. I didn't realize anyone could hear me. I had spoken aloud, muttering what I thought in a moment of disbelief at her ethereal beauty. And when her head tilted slightly, her eyes locking onto mine, I felt a cold jolt of panic. "Did you just say that?" Her voice was musical, but every note carried an authority that could command fleets. I stammered, my tongue tying itself in knots. I didn't mean, my usual scientific precision, my careful articulation, failed me completely. Her lips curved in a faint smile, and she stepped closer. The air around her smelled faintly of ozone and starfire, a scent that made my pulse pound. "You think I'm perfect," she said, almost a statement, almost a question. "Yes." "No. I don't even know why I said that." I groaned, wishing the floor would open and swallow me whole. I don't know. You're different." She didn't laugh. She didn't look angry. She just studied me, tilting her head, her gaze penetrating. And in that gaze, I felt something dangerous, something that mirrored curiosity. "I've encountered many humans," she said softly. "Most are arrogant. Some are foolish. Others are cautious. You are none of those." That wasn't a compliment. That was a classification. And yet, it felt like more. Over the next few days, my life became a complicated dance of chance encounters with her aboard the station. She moved with grace among the station's elite, diplomats, and scientists, and yet, somehow, she always appeared where I was, at exactly the wrong or right time. Once, I tripped over a loose maintenance panel in the biolab, and when I looked up, she was there, offering a hand that shimmered faintly in the low light. "You're clumsy," she said. Her voice carried amusement, but her eyes were examining me, reading me. I'm a xenobiologist," I replied. "Not graceful. That's not in the job description." "You are honest," she said simply. "That is rare." And then she smiled. Just like that. A small, almost secretive smile. I swear in that moment, the station could have burned down and I wouldn't have noticed. But my accidental confession wasn't forgotten. I could see it in her eyes whenever she looked at me. The curiosity, the surprise. And was that something else? Something I couldn't quite name. One evening, the station's observation deck offered a panoramic view of the star system. I was cataloging some samples when she appeared beside me. I didn't hear her arrive. She just was there. "The stars are beautiful tonight," she said, her voice low and reflective. "Yes, they are," I said, trying to sound casual. "But not as beautiful as some things. My mouth moved faster than my brain. I wanted to take it back, but the words had already spilled. Some things like you. The silence that followed could have been measured in light years. She didn't turn to me immediately. She continued gazing at the stars, as if pondering some cosmic riddle. Finally, she spoke, her tone soft but carrying a weight I couldn't ignore. You humans often speak without considering consequences. Why do you do this? I don't know. I admitted. I can't lie. I saw you and I said what I thought. My voice faltered. You are unlike any human I've met, she said, finally turning to look at me. Her eyes, so bright and alien, softened. Most would have hidden behind words, behind social constructs. You exposed yourself. Entirely. I swallowed hard. I'm sorry if I offended you. You did not offend me, she replied. But you intrigued me. And intrigue is rare. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind raced with thoughts, what-ifs, and impossible scenarios. What would happen if she actually felt something similar? A human and an envoy? It was absurd, but every absurd thought seemed possible when I thought of her. The next day, the station erupted in chaos. A rogue faction of the Leary Collective had attacked a neighboring sector. Orders were shouted, alarms blared, and the station's defense systems roared to life. In the middle of the panic, I saw her commanding the operations with a calm that belied the chaos. She moved through the command deck with purpose, her presence commanding respect, her voice cutting through the comms like a blade of light. I wanted to help. I wanted to be useful. I had a plan to assist, but every time I moved toward her, the words I had accidentally spoken returned to haunt me. Then, she glanced at me. A single, fleeting glance. And everything stopped. Time didn't flow, ships didn't explode, alarms didn't blare, just her look, that impossible, starlit gaze, piercing straight into me. She nodded once, almost imperceptibly, and I understood. I was to follow her instructions. The following hours were a blur. Together, we coordinated defenses, redirected the station's shields, and countered the rogue faction's attacks. I worked mechanically, focusing on the technical tasks she assigned, but always aware of her near presence. I caught snippets of her gaze, fleeting smiles when a strategy worked perfectly, subtle expressions that seemed human. At one point, she leaned close to me, whispering something only I could hear. You speak what you feel. That is dangerous. And yet, I am not displeased. I choked on my response. I'm glad? I trailed off. My usual eloquence had completely abandoned me. You are not alone, she said simply. Even if the stars are cold, even if your world is insignificant in the grand scheme, know this. You have touched me. Touched her? The words rang in my mind, impossible, absurd, yet not unwelcome. After the conflict, the station slowly returned to normal. The rogue faction had retreated, and casualties were minimal thanks to her strategic brilliance. The crew cheered her as a hero, but she avoided the spotlight, slipping away to the observation deck. I followed, my heart pounding, unsure of what to say, unsure of what would happen. I should leave, she said, voice distant as she gazed at the stars. My duty calls me elsewhere. The collective requires me. I don't want you to go. I admitted, the words raw and unpolished, but true. Not like this. I stopped, terrified I would ruin everything. She turned to me fully, her eyes searching mine. And then she laughed, a soft, musical sound that made the entire deck feel lighter. You are foolish, she said, stepping closer. But your foolishness is refreshing. Most would never dare to say such things, least of all to me. I took a deep breath. I didn't mean to. I think you're incredible. And You accidentally said what you thought about me, she interrupted, smiling now, warm and human in a way that made my knees weak. And it was honest. That is more than many would give. That is rare. And I like rare. Her words hit me like a supernova. I wanted to say something, anything, but my voice failed. She reached out, her hand brushing mine. The warmth of her touch, alien yet familiar, sent a shiver down my spine. I choose honesty, she whispered, even if it is human honesty, even if it is accidental. And then she kissed me. Not formally, not ceremoniously, but simply, fully, as if bridging the impossible gap between species with a single, undeniable truth. Time seemed to fold around us. Stars outside the observation deck blazed with distant suns, ships hummed in orbit, and yet all of it faded away. There was only her. When we finally parted, she rested her forehead against mine. You are unlike anyone I have ever met. I do not know what will come next. The collective humans, the stars, but I know this. I am glad you spoke your truth. Accidentally, perhaps, but truthfully. That was enough. I smiled, a slow, stunned grin. Then, I guess accidents can be good. She chuckled softly. Some accidents can change the universe. And in that moment, I realized that the universe had already changed. Not because of politics, war, or science, but because of a single human truth accidentally spoken to the most extraordinary being I had ever known. We spent the following weeks together aboard the station, learning each other's ways, bridging the gap between human and Lyri. Each day brought new discoveries, not just about each other, but about ourselves, about courage, vulnerability, and the unexpected power of honesty. I never forgot that first moment, the accident that revealed my heart. And she never forgot that moment either, for in the galaxy of countless stars, she chose a human, and in choosing, she changed everything. And somewhere between the stars and the fragile heart of a xenobiologist, a bond was forged. Unlikely, impossible, but undeniable. The universe, it seemed, had room for accidents. And for love.